I'm Trina, and today I am doing my very first monthly reading wrap-up, at least the first one on this channel. Unlike the monthly book hauls or monthly TBRs, I do think that monthly wrap-ups will be pretty consistent because I've been keeping track of the books I read each month for quite a while now. So this is something I really enjoy doing, and I think that I will probably do one every month. So let's just get right into it. These are the books I read in January. The first book I read this month, and first book of the year, was Blankets by Craig Thompson. This is an autobiographical graphic novel, and I do think that it is pretty good for readers who are new to graphic novels because the story that's in Blankets is kind of similar to a contemporary YA novel. So if you like contemporary YA and want to get into graphic novels, I do think that this would be a good transition because of the story that's in here, and the panels are very easy to follow, but the story arc is not as well rounded as a regular novel would be. And because of that, I gave Blankets 4 out of 5 stars. It just lacked a little bit of closure, but I guess I shouldn't really hold that against it because it's an autobiography. It's not a wish fulfillment story. It is a story of what actually happened, and I really do admire the author for being able to not only tell his story, but to draw it in very beautiful illustrations. I think that he was multi-talented, and to be able to tell that story in words and pictures is just a great talent. Also, I want to mention that if you have read Isla and the Happily Ever After by Stephanie Perkins, you know that one of the main characters, Josh, is a graphic artist who is drawing a book about his life story, and Blankets is very much reminiscent of the book that Josh draws in Isla and the Happily Ever After. Plus, Stephanie Perkins has mentioned that Blankets has been an influential source to her for her writing. So if you've read Isla and you were curious at all about that book mentioned, check out Blankets because it's very similar. The second book I read in January was The Perfectionists by Sarah Shepard. Guys, I can't help it. I am a sucker for Sarah Shepard's books. I don't know why. I think I am a bit old for them, but she is kind of the queen of YA murder mysteries, and I can't help it because I do get sucked in every time. The plot revolves around 5 girls who have all been victimized by the most popular boy in school. So together they come up with a plot to get revenge on him, but then he winds up dead, and it happens in the exact same way that they have kind of discussed, but they didn't actually do it. If you've read the other young adult series by Sarah Shepard, I think that you'll feel pretty much the same way about The Perfectionists as you did about those series, but to me, I thought that this was the strongest series starter we've seen from her so far. I did enjoy it, so I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read This Shattered World by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner. This is the second book in the Starbound trilogy, which is a series of companion novels which are sci-fi, romance. I don't want to say too much about the plot of this one since it is a sequel, but I did a book talk / series talk video. You can click on the book here to go to that video if you want to check that out. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars because I didn't like it quite as much as the first book, but I do really love this universe and I did enjoy being back in it. Next, I read a short story. It was After the Bridge by Cassandra Clare. This is an extra epilogue to the Infernal Devices series. It deals with a certain character, which you'll know who I'm talking about if you've read the series. If you liked that character, definitely check out the short story. You will probably find it very satisfying. If you did not like that character though, feel free to skip it because there's no real necessary information included. I think it's just an extra little fluff scene for fans of a certain character. I did like that character. I did read this and really enjoyed it, so I gave it 5 stars because reasons. Next, I read Atlantia by Ali Kandi. This is a standalone dystopia which is set in an underwater city. Now, I don't want to say much more than that about it because I went in not knowing anything else, and my favorite part of the story was learning about this world. Why are they underwater? Who are they? all of those kind of details. That was the most fascinating thing to me, so I don't want to say very much else. I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars because although I really did enjoy the world building and I did like the main character, at times I thought that the narrative was just repetitive, or some things were pursued that had no effect at all on the main plot, and I didn't always understand the character motivations. I also read 1,000 Pieces of You by Claudia Gray. I've had this book since it came out and I have been putting it off, I think because I was a bit intimidated by all the hype that it was getting, but I finally picked it up and I blew right through it. I really enjoyed it. 1,000 Pieces of You follows a girl who is the daughter of 2 leading scientists who have discovered a breakthrough in how to travel between alternate dimensions, and then her father winds up dead, and the key suspect in his murder is her longtime family friend. So he has escaped into another dimension after the murder, and our main character decides to go after him, chasing him through other dimensions to track him down and avenge her father. To be honest, this sold me at parallel universes and alternate dimensions. I really like that topic in books. I know that it was kind of a hot trend in 2014, but I've only read a couple of books about it, so I found this one very fascinating. I thought that it was handled well. It wasn't very info-dumpy, which I appreciated because when you're dealing with sci-fi, sometimes the physics or science behind theories can just kind of bog you down. But this explained everything very well and concisely in a way that it still made sense. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. Although I loved all those aspects to it, there were some pretty major eye roll moments for me. Triangle. I just wasn't digging that aspect, but it was still a very great read and I am definitely looking forward to the rest of the series. And lastly, I read the book Motherless Daughters by Hope Edelman. Now this is a self-help grief book for women who lost their mothers as children or young adults. I had a friend recommend this to me this year and I put this book on my list of 2015 reading goals. And if you saw my TBR jar video where I drew my topic for January, I drew to read a non-fiction book this month and I went ahead and picked this one up since it was on my reading goals for the year as well, so I kind of crossed off 2 things at once. This is a very personal book. It helped me learn a lot about myself and how I have been shaped by not only the loss of my mother but also her presence when she was alive. You can see that I marked it up quite a bit, so it was definitely a very personal meaning and personal read for me, so I gave this one 5 stars. I definitely do recommend this book to any woman who lost her mother at a young age and is now an adult and kind of still dealing with the grief and how it affects your life. So that's everything I read in January. I got through 6 books and 1 short story. I read a bit slower than usual for me, but I am still happy with that number. I usually like to think of some kind of fun superlatives of the month, like who was my favorite character, what was my favorite ship, what was my favorite world, that kind of stuff. But this month, basically, it all boiled down to 1 book. My favorite characters, my favorite romance, my favorite cover, and just my favorite read of the month, which I'm not including the short story or the nonfiction book because although those were my only 5-star reads of the month, I rate those a little bit differently than fiction novels. So my favorite read of January was 1,000 Pieces of You by Claudia Gray. I just really enjoyed the story and I found it fast-paced and gripping, and even though I told you guys that I rolled my eyes at some of the romance, I still kind of ship it. And I've already filmed a like try why video for 1,000 Pieces of You, so if you are looking for reasons why to pick this one up or more books to pick up that are like it if you liked this one, definitely stay tuned for that video. Let me know what you read this month down in the comments. Did you read any of the same books I did? If you did, let me know so we can fangirl all about them together. I will see you next time. Bye!